I'm Jeremy White, and today the Bills GM told me he was going to spend every pick on wide receiver. He really did.
I'm Joe Marino, and Jim Leonhard said it best. If you want to control games, then you got to stop the run.
I'm the big O, Jerry Ostroski. The gang's all here. I'm not talking about Bill's squad. I'm talking about Joe Brady's assistant coaching staff. They look to be all hired, and we're going to talk about it today on Locked On. This is Bill Squad.
Who's ready, Bills Mafia? It's the Bills Squad. Everything Buffalo Bills, every week. Breaking down the big hits and game-changing plays the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So gear up and squad up. The Bills Squad show starts now.
And welcome in, Bills Mafia. It is the Bills Squad show. This episode brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKDOWNNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Jeremy White, Joe Marino, and the big O, Jerry Ostroski, for our twice weekly rundown of all things Buffalo Bills. Things are still happening, hiring assistant coaches. I had a chance to talk with the GM today on WGR Sports Radio 550 in Buffalo. People thought a highly anticipated round 2 bout. It did not quite materialize that way, but we'll let you know what he had to say, break down some of that. We're going to get into Mad Maxx Crosby rumors, because Jay Glazer reports that he wants out of Vegas. How feasible is it for the Raiders to do, for the Bills, for their competition? Jim Leonhard speaking at One Bills Drive on the changes to come. Joe's episode on Locked On Bills about the receiver room and how that might shake out as we look forward, and anything else that comes up along the way. Good afternoon, Joe, Jerry. It's been a busy week for the Bills, right? A lot of coordinators, a lot of news. And this Maxx Crosby nugget, I asked for it yesterday on WGR. I said, aren't we due? Somebody asking for a trade? And sure enough, 24 hours later, we got it. You always get it at the Super Bowl, Joe. Someone's always going to get there and talk trade. And this time it's Maxx Crosby, courtesy of Jay Glazer.
Well, Jeremy, you're the one that spoke to Joe Brady yesterday and Brandon Beane today. So you got the goods, man. A couple great interviews there on WGR the last couple of mornings. But, yeah, that's the spicy thing right now is Maxx Crosby, and if, he's a player the Bills should pursue. And one thing that's going to be a little annoying about some of these trade conversations as we consider, maybe some of the receivers and some of the pass rushers the Bills could trade for. The Patriots have the exact same needs. Has this crossed your mind? They're looking for the same stuff. They got tons of cap space, of course, and certainly plenty of draft capital as well. And so that's going to be an extra layer to all of these conversations. Is not only do you want the player, but you certainly don't want him going to New England. And Maxx Crosby is a player that I think would have plenty of interest from both the Bills and Patriots.
And did you see Diana Rossini say he wants to play for Mike Vrabel?
I sure did.
Jerry, how about that? Like, we've talked a lot, like, why wouldn't anybody want to come play with Josh Allen? And Sean McDermott had a reputation around the league. Now it's Joe Brady. How would a player look at that kind of change, right? If you're Maxx Crosby, is Joe Brady's never been a head coach. He's about to be a head coach. His players speak highly of him. I kind of wonder how that factors in for any sort of pending free agent.
Well, I think the big thing with Maxx Crosby is defensive end. Vrabel played outside linebacker, defensive end, kind of kindred spirits. Of course, Vrabel doesn't have tattoos all over his body like Maxx does, but, they're kind of those guys. And Maxx is a free spirit, likes to speak his mind. And I think he just wants to go somewhere where he thinks he fits in. He can just play ball. I guess that happened for a while in Vegas, and now he's looking for a new place to be. Obviously, defensively and all that, it just makes sense with Vrabel but you never know. I mean, he did go to college at Eastern Michigan, so he's used to Buffalo weather for sure. By where he went to college, it won't be scary to him. But I digress. I think the big thing is that you got defensive guys. Vrabel's the cool dude. Now, who knows? Maybe Joe Brady will be the cool dude here in a few years.
Look, I don't always love like the big galaxy brain trade for a player conversations, but this one's pretty real. I mean, the Raiders should trade Maxx Crosby. He's going to turn 29 in August, and the Raiders are probably 2 years away from being 2 years away. They got a lot of work to do, and I don't think that they're in a position to really maximize Maxx Crosby's prime. If anything, they can allow Maxx Crosby's prime to help them, turn the corner by getting some assets for him. And so between, Maxx coming out and saying it, where the Raiders are, the Raiders shutting him down at the end of last season, like I'm pretty sure Maxx Crosby's going to be traded. And we've heard Brandon Beane say things like, if one of those types of guys comes available, right? The Myles Garrett piece, afterwards last year when he didn't actually get traded, but he was like, yeah, when those types of guys come available, you got to kind of have to look into it. And I expect him to do it. I do wonder if this is the blockbuster move. Is there a better argument to be made for it to be a wide receiver? What does this mean for your overall blueprint for the offseason with a lot of different needs? I'm curious about it all, but you get a chance to get a player like this, or you get a chance to get a big time receiver. I think that Beane's got to come away with at least one of those things. And, Crosby right now feels like the ripe conversation.
I understand that, but still, I just have a hard time, and I always have a hard time, especially with a roster like the Bills. This isn't a roster that all of a sudden we made a coaching change and it's now, everything we've heard about it was false. I mean, it's got holes. And very rarely do I think you can go out and buy one guy and make that big of a difference. I mean, you can make a difference, but Maxx Crosby, to me, just one player and tying up your cap for one player is not going to make the supreme difference of winning a Super Bowl or not.
I think it's 2 first-round picks. Is that what it gets? You think
so?
Less?
No, I don't think it's 2 first-round picks.
I don't either.
Jay Glazer in his report said the price would be more than Micah Parsons, and I'm sorry, no. Do not think so. Micah Parsons went for 2 firsts and a defensive starter, like a defensive tackle.
Yeah,
no, it's not that. These deals, like, it always ends up being, the starting price is a first and a second, and it'll be it ends up being a first and a pick swap or something like that might be the price. On Crosby, the player, he was 14th in the NFL in pass rush win rate last year. He wants out. He's the one that says, I got to go. I don't like the direction. They sat me when I didn't want to be sat. I don't like that. So, like, he's feeling disrespected by the organization. And listen, if a Tom Brady minority ownership organization can't win you back, I feel like you're gone. And there's a reason for them to do it. How about the type of defensive end? Because at the root of this, guys, we wouldn't talk about any player like this. It's about 2 primary positions where this conversation will come up: defensive end and wide receiver, knowing that there are more holes. So how about the type of defensive end Crosby is? Because I saw Joe Goodberry, who covers the Bengals, did a side-by-side of Crosby versus Hendrickson. And basically the tail of the tape between the two is that Hendrickson has been better pass rush win rate, getting to the quarterback, sack numbers, but Crosby is tackle for loss, better against the run. Joe, is he just more complete? And is that the kind of defensive end that this new system will want? We've been loving defensive ends that are good against the run for a long time, maybe the expensive guys that get to the quarterback. So let's talk about the actual fit itself for Crosby.
Clean. Yeah, it's a clean fit. I'm glad you highlighted the run defense, because that's one of the best parts of Maxx Crosby's game. It's not like Greg Rousseau where that is the appeal. It's a huge part of what he does in addition to being a impact pass rusher. And he sets firm edges. He creates disruption, and he's got a really just special ability to detach from blocks, contort his body, go back against his momentum, and get people on the ground. He's got a huge radius to him. Not necessarily that his wingspan is exceptionally massive, but he just has such a gravitational pull based on how he positions himself to make plays. And so he's pretty special from that regard. And then he's got so many moves. There's a deep bag with the way that he can beat blocks and get home. And 255 pounds. I think he's really ideal for an edge rusher in a system like Jim Leonard's. And so I think he's a really clean fit, and his impact is high impact pass rusher, but also high impact as a run defender.
Yeah, huge IQ as a pass rusher. You talked about his portfolio of his moves. The other thing he has is he's got extreme hip flexibility and ankle flexibility. He can bend, and he gets a lot of his sacks because of that length. You got length with bend. You get leverage opportunities that a lot of other players don't get, and gives those long tackles fits. And he's just that type of guy. I mean, the special ones all have that whole kind of, recipe to be really good. Bruce had it. All the great ones you see have had it. They can bend, hip, ankle flexibility, a cachet of moves. He's elite for sure.
I had an NFL coach one time tell me that one of the most important things when scouting players is they either understand angles or they don't. How do you feel about that, Jerry? Because I think you would look at a guy like Maxx Crosby and say, yeah, gets angles. Do you feel like that's true? Like you either get him or you don't?
Yes, I mean it's all angles, and that's what pass protection is.
Yeah.
You're taking those angles away by getting to these set points in your sequence, in your drive catch sequence. You're trying to get to that point before Maxx Crosby gets to that point, because very seldom are pass rushes won by going down the middle. I mean, those set things up, but you're always looking at a pass rush being won because it's this shoulder tip or that shoulder tip. You're getting a guy turned, you're getting a hip turned. It's all angles in physics. And that's what this whole dance is, this orchestrated dance. It's you're taking away their angles, they're trying to get you in a position where they get the angle, and that's 100% correct.
One thing is durable. So I'm looking at Crosby's injury history. He had to get shut down in 2024 with an ankle sprain, a high ankle sprain, missed 4 games. Other than that, he doesn't get hurt. He has not been hurt. In fact, they placed him on IR at the end of this year, and he said, "I'm not hurt." So that was the decision to shut him down. He's whatever. He seems like the kind of player that Bills Mafia would love. And if they're trying to improve their pass rush, they certainly need bodies at the position, and they have chased it. Like, let's run through. They've chased it, whether it's Vaughn, which was a good idea, I think, and of course, like, it broke down like it was maybe expected to. But whether it's Leonard Floyd or Mario Addison or whatever, like, they've chased this position, and to me, it would make sense if they chase it here. Brandon Beane flat out said, when I asked him today, I'll look into it, because I always look into these kind of deals.
One of the other things about Maxx Crosby, you mentioned the durability. He plays every snap. Like, he doesn't come out of the game. This is not a guy that's ever been part of rotation. He's been 94% of snaps or better the last 4 years. Like, he does not come off the field. I remember when they signed Christian Wilkins, which obviously didn't go well. That was another guy that never came off the field. And I'm like, my goodness, they have 2 of like the most aggressive snap takers in the league on the defensive line. And so, yeah, this won't be an 80% player. He's never been that. This is a 95% of the snaps player. So that whole piece about, snap and rotation, Crosby doesn't come off the field. And Jim Leonhard said today during his press conference, wants his best players on the field as much as possible.
Which brings me to
we'll see a change there.
Right, but which brings me to this as well. I mean, Maxx Crosby's not the undersized outside Nick Bonito type linebacker. No. If you're going to spend that type of money, he's Greg Rousseau. Is Greg Rousseau getting starters money, or is Greg Rousseau getting backup money? Because now all of a sudden, if you bring Maxx Crosby in, who plays the majority of the plays, you're paying an awful lot of money for Greg Rousseau to be a backup. So do you move him or do you keep him? I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's what you got to look at.
I don't think so, though. I don't think Greg Rousseau would be a backup. I still think he's going to play 80% of snaps. But
so where does he play? At a 5 technique?
Sometimes 4-eye, sometimes stand up.
Okay, so you're going to move him inside then. So we're going to finally get to a world. If we get Maxx Crosby in here, we're going to finally get to a world where you and I have been clamoring for a long, long time.
It's Calais Campbell, Jerry. It's finally
get your damn hand on the ground.
Let's go.
Get your damn hand on the ground and let's roll. That's what I'm saying. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
I feel like, Jerry, like you just sold us and yourself on it. Like, all right, if it's going to slot Rousseau properly, maybe you're getting a 2-for-1 kind of deal.
Right, but it's where I was going to. I knew Joe was going to get me there. It's just like the other day we had the conversation about would Maxx Crosby fit in this defense, right? Of course he would. But that's what I've been saying. I mean, I think Rousseau now all of a sudden we get a special type of guy that can do really crazy stuff as a 4-eye or a 5 if you get Maxx Crosby in here. Then get your so yeah. I mean, then maybe things are a little bit different.
The Bills would need to make about $30 million in cap space. The way that it works, folks, for the salary cap, you don't have to look at the number and think they have to fit 30 in. They only have to fit 30 in the day they get him. Then if they were to extend him, restructure him, you can move his number to lower. He's on year 2 of a 3-year deal, and he's not totally old, right? When they signed Vaughn, he was much older than this. So like that part of it could happen. Would they break the bank and give him an even bigger raise? He did just get paid. It's a good question. The flip side of it is, and this is kind of going off in the chat and our comments here on YouTube, which by the way, thanks for shooting us comments. We'll get to some at the end of the show. And like and subscribe while you're here. Is a better idea Crosby, who you're going to pay, and the picks, or Hendrickson, who you could just pay? Hendrickson is the kind of thing where you don't have to have the $30 million to do it. You can just sign him, and when you submit the number to the league, your cap hit is 7. So Hendrickson is, I think, much more attainable. The question is it the right move?
My thing on this is, and Joe, you can hop into the specifics, but really, when you look at our injury history and the fact that Maxx Crosby doesn't get hurt, like we've talked about, if we're going to spend $30 million on a player, I don't want to know if he's iffy health-wise. And Hendrickson's been iffy with this hip and whatever else he's got going on. He's older than Max. I want the guy that's healthy, that's had durability. And so, therefore, I think Max would be the guy that I would want. But obviously, there's other things you got to look at as well.
I tend to agree with you. There's opportunity costs there that matters a ton because, like Jeremy pointed out, it's just signing a player versus taking on a comparable contract, but also giving up premium draft picks. I would say this, though. Trey Hendrickson, to me, feels like a better fit for a Sean McDermott defense. And so I think it's a little, I don't want to say messy because, boy, I think you could make Trey Hendrickson work for sure. But based on what I think Jim Leonhard's defense is intended to be, I think the better fits Crosby. So you get the younger player that's a better fit, that's been super durable. Yeah, it's going to cost you some draft picks, but there's give and take with all of it. And so in a vacuum, it's definitely Crosby. I still think with this additional layer, you still lean Crosby.
Does anyone want to shoot the moon, go all the way to Garrett? I mean, we could run this race again where we pretend that maybe he gets moved. There's one different piece of leverage in the Garrett conversation, and that's his new contract gave him a boatload of money. And NFL contracts are guaranteed. His contract pays him 1.3 per year in that neighborhood right now. Like, his base salary is low, under 2. And the last 2 years of his deal, his salary is $38 million. So that is a super tradable contract. When he signed that, he got his big payday, and it was super tradable to the point where if he were to even sit out games, the game checks, it's not even hurting him. So if he wanted to make it ugly, I feel like he did sign a contract. He got his $40 million per average, but it was created in a way that if he decided he really needed to go, and if like Jim Schwartz goes, we could run this race again with Garrett. Just saying, if you want to throw that out there instead of those other two. It's the dream, but not worth dreaming.
Well, it's funny. Yeah. It's funny how Jeremy wants to go ahead and trade for all these defensive players now that he knows the GM's going to draft nothing but wide receivers. So
that's what he said.
We've got to trade for defensive picks now, right? Defensive guys.
Yeah, we'll get to that comment from Beane in a minute. I asked him, "Do you need to upgrade at receiver this morning?" He said, "Actually, yeah, we're working on. We're going to spend every draft pick we've got on wide receivers." So
set a record, right?
Yeah, funny, a good moment from him, funny moment from him. But my follow-up question to him on that, I think, is worth getting into when we talk about the wide receiver room and what that's going to look like, which we will in a minute. We also heard from Bills defensive coordinator Jim Leonhard today, and I want to get your guys' takeaways from that. What he had to say, what it sounded like. I got something from him I thought it was really interesting in terms of this being a bit of a calling for him and what he does as a coach, what his I guess aspirations are, if you would say that. So we'll get a break in real quickly, and when we return, get to what you need to know about what Jim Leonhard had to say. It's Jeremy White, Joe Marino, and Jerry O here on the Bill Squad Show. This episode of Bill Squad brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. It is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel's making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, it's the game everyone's been waiting for. And this is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap is bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season, make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, just bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And this episode also brought to you by ZocDoc. Finding a doctor you actually like can feel like discovering a diamond in the rough. Sure, you want someone who's in network nearby and has availability, but you also want a doctor who listens, makes you feel comfortable, and explains things clearly. That kind of doctor exists, and finding them is easy with ZocDoc. It's a free app and website, helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors so you can find someone you love without all the hassle. We're talking about booking in-network appointments with more than 150,000 providers across all 50 states, covering over 200 specialties from primary care and dentistry to dermatology and eye care. ZocDoc makes the process simple. You can search by specialty or symptoms, build a care team that works for you, see real-time availability, book instantly, no calls, no waiting on hold. You can read verified patient reviews, whether you want to go in person or do a video visit. ZocDoc makes it easy either way. Stop putting off those doctor appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL to find and instantly book a doctor you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this message. Back here on the Bill Squad show, Jeremy White, Joe Marino, and the big O, Jerry Ostroski. We talked a bit about Maxx Crosby as a trade idea. Those trade winds will probably blow for a couple of weeks here post-Super Bowl and through the combine and all that. But Jim Leonhard today, the Bills' new defensive coordinator, he spoke at One Bills Drive, took questions from the media, talking about his return here. And I found it kind of interesting, guys, to hear. He said he's from a coach's family. Like, this is just who he is. It's in his blood. He was a player, but he kind of always knew that this is where he was going to land. He loves, and he said it about players too. He said, I love a player that loves to learn. So, a good hire for a guy that's going to kind of basically bring in a new look to the defense, because they got some players that are here that, Jerry, they're going to be learning a new system and learning a new defense.
Definitely. I think this is a guy that obviously is going to bring that energy. You've heard it a million times. We've said it here before, the juice man comment. We've got a lot of guys that are bringing juice. Coach Leonard's another one that's bringing juice, right? And I think that he'll be, you get a group like this, it's maybe been maligned a little bit, and it'll be good for him to have a new voice to hear, give him new energy, give him new stuff to do. I mean, that's a big deal as part of this, rejuvenation process. But no, I mean, obviously, coaching family, played the game, coached it in college, now in the pros, understands it. I mean, these guys are, they're special. They really are. The guys like this are special. This is what it's about. Because when you're a coach, you gotta live that life. You gotta want to do it. And obviously he's got that in him. And I'm excited to see where this goes. Probably this is the most exciting part for me, more than anything that's been done in the last 2 weeks, is this hire to run this defense and see where we end up being.
I thought Jim Leonhard was an absolute delight to listen to. I thought he was genuine. I thought he was honest, candid. He's very intelligent. I love how he answered questions. I thought he was insightful. I liked how so many things that he discussed really came down to simplifying things, like trying to take complex conversations about scheme and, positionless players and, the evolution of the game, and just really kind of simplifying it in a way that, even in the press conference, you kind of just came across that he's a very good communicator, and he can make complex things sound very, very simple. And, even talking about, hey, we're really going to present. It's not that we're going to play a whole lot of different things. We're just going to present a lot of different things and play the same stuff. And, in him talking about how, he was with Rex Ryan, and he was in 6 different places with Rex Ryan, and he saw that install happen so many different times, and, how that set him up for these moments. And so I think he's going to be an absolute star as a coach. And, I don't know, you listen to a guy and he kind of screams head coach to me at some point. So we'll enjoy him while we can, but he looks like an absolute stud.
I agree with that. I don't know how long he'll be around, especially with his alma mater not being very good. Who knows?
Well, he got to be their interim OC, right? Or interim head coach for like half a year, right? When they let go of Paul Chris. So we'll see.
He's got experience calling plays, and I found this interesting about him talking about how Cole Bishop's the kind of safety I wanted to be, is what he said. Like, he loved Bishop
he was
coming
as
out.
Big.
Yeah. Mentioned Bishop's versatility. They like that. And there's another quote in here, Joe, from Leonard that kind of gets to something you mentioned earlier, that the goal is to be as versatile as possible, but he wants to kind of do it with the same 11 guys. Not to say they won't have subs, but what it sounds like he wants is, instead of the McDermott defense was rotate fresh, right? But this defense, I'm sure they'll have rotations. It will be more about our guys are able to do what they do so well and so versatile in their own right that I can confuse you and keep the same guys on the field. It almost sounds like the way that teams like to play offense. We give you the same look with the same guys, and you don't know what kind of play it's going to be because we've got versatility here.
You know, the guy that's in the press box that's looking at personnel coming on and off the field, determining if the defense is a nickel front or a dime front or whatever based on personnel. You don't have those tips anymore because the same guys are doing the same stuff. Kind of like we talk about with Dalton Kincaid all the time, right? You can get into spread looks with Dalton Kincaid, but you can also get into end line, ace looks and 13 personnel as well, just by him shifting in and out. So same stuff that, like you said, you see on offense.
It aligns with what Joe Brady's been talking about in terms of, I don't believe offensive and defensive philosophy should be different. I think we should think about it the same way. And you can kind of sense that with Jim Leonhard. And I'm excited. I really am. I agree with Jerry. Like, the most exciting part of all of this is that new direction on defense and how Jim Leonhard takes over this thing. And I think there's an element to his scheme that I think will free up some of these players and maybe see them impact the games in ways that we haven't. I'm not trying to add on to the smear campaign to Sean McDermott. Trust me. Like, I have a lot of respect for Sean McDermott, but as that defense has been disappointing in big moments, I don't know how you can't be excited about the new direction, and especially listening to Jim Leonhard talk today and just how he communicated. I think he's going to be awesome.
I feel much better giving up big plays, being aggressive, than giving a big play, sitting back there sitting on my hands and trying to be soft about things and manage things instead of, if I give one up by going full speed ahead, so be it. I'll be fine. We've got 17. Let's go score more points and tie it up.
I thought one thing that he said that was interesting as well is how he goes, man, it was really good for him to have the last couple of years, like, in a support role, because he went from like 1 year and then he was a defensive coordinator, like 1 year as a coach, and then like 6 years as a defensive coordinator. He's like, it was really helpful to kind of take a step back. And of course, he was the pass game coordinator for Denver, but to not be the defensive coordinator and kind of see it a little bit, I could see how that could be valuable and set him up for this, in addition to all the different stops that he's had in his career, to step into a situation and figure things out and get the relationship with the players down and hopefully get this defense rolling.
There'll be a bunch of pieces on the defense. The GM, Brandon Beane, he even kind of said today, our offseason will probably be more geared toward the defense because of all the changes they've got to make. And here's Leonhard talking about how he'll get with Brandon Beane and Joe Brady and the staff and talk about, and the scouts, like, what kind of skill sets he might want, but he's going to let them kind of do their job. This makes free agency this year super interesting, right? Because that is the precursor to the draft. And for Leonhard, he's out there in Denver. Is there a guy there that's going to be a UFA? Or are there a couple players that he would know, like, oh, this guy, I've been wanting to get this guy in my defense, like a KG signing. The Bills used to be pretty good with those kind of KG signings. They've dried up a bit, and maybe the scheme change, Joe, could be something that kind of brings a few more of those in.
Yeah, PJ Locke's the name for me that really stands out. A guy that, they're starting. He's a safety. Starting safeties there were Brandon Jones and Talanoa Hufanga, but Jones got injured this year. And then you got a chance to see PJ Locke play some. And then last year, it was Brandon Jones and somebody else, but PJ Locke wound up playing a decent amount. And I think he's kind of been that third safety that's flashed when given an opportunity, has some one-high ability, some ball skills. And I think he's maybe picked off Josh Allen twice, if I'm not mistaken. But I think that he's the type of player that would come in with that foundational knowledge, but then also really complement Cole Bishop well, where I want to see Cole playing in lower alignments, closer to the line of scrimmage a little bit more frequently. And I think a guy that has that range over the top is your center field type guy. And PJ Locke, that feels like that cagey guy. And then, of course, like Justin Sternad, who is like their third linebacker that kind of looks like a starter, is another guy that's versatile, can blitz, can defend the run, can play in space a little bit. I think about some of those guys from Denver that could be in line for more opportunity, and that to happen in Buffalo. Justin Sternard at backer and PJ Locke at safety.
So Sternard more than Alex Singleton?
Well, Singleton's 33, right? So that's the piece where Sternard, I think, he can't be more than a year past his rookie deal. I'm sure he's 26, 27, something like that. So I like Singleton, but yeah, I think the age piece there is what would push me towards Sternard.
Got you.
We also wondered last show if anybody from the coaching staff would stay. And we do have a few that have stayed. Rob Boris, Kelly Skipper, Rob Boris, Austin Gunn, DJ Mangus, Kyle Schumer, Amelia Wilson, and Mark Lubick will all be retained on staff. Those are all offensive side of the ball people, running backs, tight ends, offensive line. Austin Gunn from assistant offensive line. I don't know if that means he's elevated necessarily, but Jerry, in our open, you mentioned talking about some of the coaching staff hires or whatever, the retainments, because we wondered if there'd be anybody left. And this is a big announcement that, like, there's a good handful of people that I guess Joe Brady knows what he gets out of this group. Like, I got a good team here together. I'm going to keep the band together to some degree.
No, I really like the ones that stayed, especially the tight ends coach. And forgive me, I forget his name.
Rob Boris.
Rob Boris. I thought he's done a tremendous job. Watched him in preseason at camp at St. John Fisher. He was very much working, hand in hand with Aaron Cromer. Knows a lot of what Cromer's stuff is. I think he'll be a really good fit with Pat Meyer, unless Joe and I can convince the Bills to go and hire Jeff Stoutland from the free agent list. If we can get that done, whatever. But sorry, Pat, I don't even know you. You might be the best guy ever. But anyway, I think they worked really well together. That's a big thing about continuity in the run game, is how those tight ends and stuff fit, especially if, hey, we got the same coordinator. He's now the head coach. We're going to see 13 personnel, right? So you got to make sure those guys know what's going on. And then also, too, with the running backs coach, James Cook, and then hopefully we'll see Reggie Gilliam back as well. So those are the two spots I'm glad to see that continuity.
So some thoughts on this. One thing that Jim Leonhard said in part of his appeal, it sounded like he had choice to make, right? I think there's a few teams that maybe wanted Jim Leonhard to be the defensive coordinator. He talked about the autonomy that Joe Brady was giving him to get the right people on staff underneath him. So as we do consider this list of retained coaches, not a single one of them are defensive, right? So some offensive carryover.
Right.
But I think that was part of the sell for Leonhard, is that he can come in and pick his guy. You did mention that Rob Boris, tight ends coach, is sticking. One thing that I find interesting about that is what Dawson Knox said during his conversation with Mitch Morse on is it Mondays with Morse?
Yeah, Mondays with Mitch.
Super good. Those conversations are phenomenal. I have the Spencer Brown one queued up that I can't wait to listen to.
It's good.
Is it good? I've seen a few clips. I can't wait.
Very good.
Got to clear an hour and a half to listen to it. I will.
Spencer Brown's vibe is unmatched. It's so great. Like, he's talking about, if you were playing in the playoffs, he's like worried about, like, if we'd have played Texans again, it would have been a bad day.
Isn't he the best? I saw that one.
He's like, oh God,
and
here we go.
And the whole part about that, he talks about how he celebrates his grandma when is her birthday. You'll like that as well. It's
I can't. That'll be tonight if I can get to it. But one thing that Dawson said in that conversation about his future in Buffalo, everybody knows it's a little bit questionable. He's got an $18 million cap hit. That's not going to work. He's either going to be released or maybe extended or approached about a pay cut, something like that. But he said, kind of wanted to go where his tight ends coach went, right? Rob Boris. And we've seen that relationship. You mentioned it, Jerry. Jeremy, you've been at camp. Those tight ends, they're pretty tight. And Boris is very hands-on. And then the last thing that I'll mention here on these retained coaches, you mentioned Austin Gunn, of course, the assistant offensive line coach under Cromer, who I thought had a chance to be the lead guy. One thing that Pete Carmichael said today during his press conference was about the run game piece. And he said, who's responsible for the run game piece? He goes, the O-line coach. Yeah, he's the old, and so Gund, having been intimately acquainted with that for the last few years, of course, with Pat Meyer, who's done that, is going to continue to be on the menu for the O-line coach. So that support that Cromer's given will now be, I assume, Austin Gund and Pat Meyer.
I wanted to say one other thing too. As much as we got on the defensive side of the ball and they weren't good enough or whatever, I find it very interesting that those defensive coaches that all were gone, they got jobs real fast. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like there's any of them sitting at home trying to figure out what they're going to do. Most of them got jobs very quickly. So those are quality coaches as well.
I think that I come away with my big question about, like, now that you can zoom out and you participate in this smear campaign that's inevitable. The thing that stands out to me about maybe where Sean McDermott's defense was let down, it's not necessarily philosophically scheme archetypes. It's that maybe there was information overload. And I think a lot about, I think about something that Ty Dunn put in one of his articles about how, you step into Sean McDermott's office and there's notebooks, right? conference championship, bye week, Super Bowl. And you remember when he was hired to be the coach, it's been notebooks and preparation, right? And when he was first hired in 2017 and everyone's fallen in love with the guy, and you hear Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer say, you know what, we were prepared. We've never been more prepared for everything that's coming our way. I just wonder if part of the reason that they couldn't play fast consistently was information overload. And it's like, they are super prepared, but at some point you just got too many things in your mind and you're not playing fast. And listening to Jim Leonhard talk about simplifying things, and even listening to Jeff Rogers, the special teams coordinator today, talk about, like what does he want the identity of special teams to be? He goes, if we want to be fundamentally sound and protect the ball. And he goes, and part of that is just, simplifying things and making sure that if a guy runs a 4.5 at the combine, that they play like they have a 4.5 because they're playing fast and not thinking about everything. And so I just wonder if that was part of what made Sean McDermott great, but also maybe was a little bit too much for the players, and it took away from them or their ability to play fast. And why some guys, well, hey, we want the guys that have been around, right? Yeah, we trust this guy, because you've been prepared to the umpteenth degree for every imaginable situation. You could step in and do it. And so go ahead.
I'm sorry. Take it one step further. Every year there's a disappointment. Every next season, it's even more and more ramped up the pressure to win it, right? And over time, just think about how that team went to where they were almost locked up, frozen. They get, what does a coach do when he's trying, more information, which is more control, which is more, and it just over time, you have all those disappointments, especially after 13 seconds. It just gets worse and worse and worse and worse to where you're basically paralyzed.
Sean needed a Super Bowl, right? Like he needed it. If he would have had the Super Bowl of 13 seconds here,
yes,
it's it. Everything it validates everything. And then, he Super Bowl winning coach, right? Like, okay, yeah, this is how we do it. This is the Bills way, right?
Because as a player, you're locked up with too much information, and then you're locked up with the pressure and fear of messing up in another must-win situation. It all goes hand in hand, and maybe it's why you see a guy like Josh Allen, play the regular season carefree and then have one of those games like he just had in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Maybe it all goes hand in hand.
Want to get a break in. When we get back, I want to talk about the receiver room, but Dawson Knox's name came up, and Brandon Beane today with me on WGR answered a question about the cap that immediately made me think about Dawson Knox as a candidate for a pay cut. And I'll give you an example of how it happened last time and how it might be the case this time in what they do. It's coming up next here on the Bill Squad Show. This episode of Bill Squad brought to you by Indeed. Yes, Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that fit is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring, Indeed's all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page, help you reach the right candidates faster. If I needed to hire someone for this show, would go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just resume buzzwords. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs help your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. Sponsored jobs boost your post to the people who are the best match for your role, and that makes a real difference. So spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard it about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Bill Squad Show, Jeremy White, Joe Marino, and the big O, Jerry Ostroski. Want to get to the wide receiver room. Joe's, one of your latest episode was about a look back at the receivers and look forward. But before that, we're talking there about the cap. You guys are talking about tight ends coach Rob Boras and his relationship with Dawson Knox. Man, if Dawson Knox isn't the prime candidate for the ask to take a pay cut and get money back in incentives, like we need cap relief. Let's do the thing. This is what they did with Matt Milano last year, right? Dawson Knox is a 30-year-old fabric of the team, close with everybody, pillar of community, friends with the other tight ends, friends, tight with the quarterback, $17 million cap hit. And it can't come in at 17. And a restructure saves about half of that. An extension, maybe that could be in the cards. I think the pay cut or extension that lowers his number in a big way, that the extension is a pay cut. Like, he's got to be a candidate for that. And I just don't know what the right approach is, right? If the pay cut could save 10, then that'll be what it is, because they can save 10 with a cut. And I feel like as tight as the cap is, guys, they got to find a way to save the full 10 on him.
For sure. And the market value, I would guess, for Dawson Knox is probably between $8 and $10 million. So, okay, we'll take you down from 18 to 8 to 10. I mean, that would be significant cap savings. You keep Dawson Knox, you get your cap relief, because ultimately, if you release him, he doesn't have any guaranteed money. So if you release him, he's going to have to ask himself some questions like, okay, if they're going to give me a pay cut, they're going to take $10 million off, but I still get paid $8 million. What am I going to get on the open market? Probably not more than that. Like, maybe the same, but you're also going to have to find a new team. You don't get to stay with Rob Boris, which he's mentioned as a priority. Of course, Josh Allen and that he's Josh Allen's longest tenured offensive skill player, right? Like, you could see that being a very, very obvious path to consider, and one I hope comes to fruition, because I think Dawson Knox matters a lot with his blocking, with his receiving skill that helps you feel good about having injury-prone Dalton Kincaid in the role, knowing that Dawson Knox can slide into it if necessary. So I hope that happens. I agree with you. This is a player that screams pay cut potential. There's another one, though, and it might be the defensive version of him, and it's Taron Johnson. Taron Johnson's a guy that, they restructured his contract to make space for that trade deadline, and that put him in a tougher spot to get out of the deal. And, I think, Taron's 29. He's going to turn 30 in July, but probably the way the Bills played him, as a lot of times as a true linebacker, probably broke him down a little quicker. And we saw some age on him this past year, and he's another guy. His base salary this year is $8.1 million. Well, don't think you're going to get that on the open market. Let's bring it down to 4 and, bake in some incentives that can get you some of it back, but you don't want to go anywhere else. Yeah. And, you're not going to get that 8.1 somewhere else. So, I think probably there's a hard conversation to have there, but, one that would make sense, just like the Dawson Knox piece.
And Jerry, both those players might be key on keeping the parts of the culture that they like.
Right. I mean, I think that's a big part of it, but also too, where does Taron Johnson really fit with this new defense? Okay. I don't know how does he fit? Is he going to be an every down player? Are they going to play nickel every down? I don't know. So maybe that does help him in the fact that he, saves some wear and tear if he's not playing every down, but it also doesn't constitute making the money he's making. I think keeping Dawson Knox is a huge thing that needs to be done. I mean, I get it. He's taken up almost 6% of the cap space right now as a 30-year-old tight end, and he's not the primary guy. So something has to be done. Obviously, the other part of this, guys, is he's a free agent in 27. So get it done now and work this deal out to where, you can get something to where both parties are happy. But I agree with you 100%. There's got to be some sort of salary reduction here. And you ask how you do it. There's no good way to do this, guys. I've dealt with it. Others have dealt with it. Yeah, I mean, it's called business, man. You call guys in, you talk to agents, and you say, this is the deal. You've got 2 alternatives. You're coming back at this, or you're going on the street. What do you choose? It's not real hard. It's not real difficult.
For Knox, what are you going to not stay in this Super Bowl window with Josh Allen, not play in this brand new stadium?
To go play for the Titans?
Right. Right. You've seen other guys go out and it's a little different. Gabe had to do that to get paid. Dawson got paid. He got paid by the Bills. You hit that big contract. It happened for you. What do you want to do? Do you want to retire here? Because you probably can if he wants to.
Well, there's nothing in favor for the Bills, and I'm sorry. You have to say it. His wife's from Buffalo.
Right.
Yeah. Talk about it, Jerry. Talk about
it. It's not the Bills' fault that he married a girl from Western New York who
a lot of guys
have a little baby
Buffalo,
and they have a little baby and a bunch of support staff all right there. I mean,
hold on. You two, no. It's going to be minus 25 this weekend. Just because people live here doesn't mean they might say it'd be nice to live somewhere else for maybe a year.
Did I tell you I hit balls yesterday and played 9 holes with my doctor friend?
I can't.
I didn't know. I didn't.
Well, his other home is in Nashville, right? Just outside of Nashville.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's
his wife
Knox.
knows
All right.
all about it, man. He's got the built-in babysitters. He said he's got 25 of them. I'm going to live there. That's where I would live with my kids.
You can't leave that.
No.
That's right.
No.
You cannot leave
No.
25 built-in babysitters.
No.
Never.
It's
Right.
it's so damn important. I moved one in my house. I
Brother,
got one living with me.
don't blame you.
Come
All right,
on
so
now.
the receivers. I asked Brandon Beane today, do you need to upgrade? And he joked, we're going to take one with every draft pick. It was a fun moment. But the way that I followed up and said, I used something he said and asked him this question. He told Catherine Fitzgerald, the Buffalo News. The headline at Catherine's piece was "Where We Erred." I'm like, all right, let's find out. What does Brandon Beane think was the problem with the receivers this year? And he said, where we erred was, and I'll paraphrase, we had guys up and down. And Elijah Moore's up and then he's down. And Josh doesn't know if he's working with Elijah Moore this week or it's Curtis Samuel or this and that. And then it's Brandon Cooks. And McDermott said something about this late in the season too, continuity at receiver. It's not where they want it to be. And what I said to Brandon was this morning, I said, do you think that complicated nature of what you think went wrong, which I think is being friendly to it, you could fix that by getting a more established hierarchy, get better ones. And it's not, well, who's up this week? Keon, this guy, that guy. Like, you earned that by living at the bottom. Do you think it would be easier with more established players? And he said, that's fair. And then talked about how he would like better receivers. So with that in mind, Joe, what do you think the receiver room looks like? Because I listened to your episode and your fear is my fear. Coleman can have a spot maybe. Cooks can have a spot maybe. These guys cannot block a potential overhaul of the room or changes to the room. That's the big fear, is that they're not going to have enough space and they're going to be too complacent.
First of all, Brandon Beane saying that's fair, a.k.a. Jeremy was right. I can say that, but I don't know if you want to. Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much pressure on it right now that I'd be surprised if something significant doesn't happen. So I think that will take care of itself. But I mean, as I was doing that episode and preparing for that episode, I started to think to myself, I'm kind of worried that they will try to validate some things, whether that is Keon Coleman, who, look, Beane drafted him, Brady stood on the table for him, Allen's, been outspoken about his support there, Curtis Samuel, Beane drafted him, Brady got 1,000 yards out of him in Carolina, brought him to Buffalo in his first year as the permanent offensive coordinator. Of course, Josh Palmer's another guy that they're all kind of like in together in, and it's like, I hope that they really take an honest look at it and don't overly commit to those players and the idea of those players and what they thought those players would be, and just be like very honest about, hey, we need like a legit pecking order here. We need to know, who the guys are going to be. And I do think that Beane's correct in that was to the detriment of the passing game, was not having that stability. And, some of that was probably injury related, but not knowing who your guys are going to be on a weekly basis and never being able to establish rhythm is probably why, they never really established rhythm. So yeah. I think the answer to it is what you said, like, get the players at the top of the list that demand those targets. And I think there's room for at least one, and if not more.
I had a dream the other night that Keon Coleman showed up to OTAs with 25 pounds of muscle mass added, and he became the Nick Bonito defensive end in Jim Leonard's defense.
I don't think he
became
can turn.
He became one of the premier pass rushers in the league. Anyway, I think that there's a lot of guys in that room that, while they're feel-good stories, if you really want to advance that room, they're going to have to move on. And that goes with Shavers. That goes with, I know Keon's not a feel-good story, but he'll be around just because of where he was picked. But he's got 1 year at most. If he doesn't get it done this year, he'll be gone. Cooks probably needs to go. I'm with you guys on this. I mean, these are feel-good stories, and they're great ideas. But if you really want to advance that room, you got to have your 3 to 4 core guys or 3 core guys and bring others in. It's got to be infused talent. You just can't keep changing the narrative of the guys that are in that room, and it's going to change the outcome of things. We've tried that, and it doesn't work. You've got to bring talent in the building.
Yeah, I feel like people will ask me, like, who's the best idea in the draft? And if we're talking about who fits in the best for what they need, like, it feels harder for me this year to kind of thread a needle unless Coleman's gone. And then I'm like, oh, I'm just picking two guys on the outside because I've got Shakir and Kincaid are going to own the middle of the field, and I'm going to have an X, I'm going to have a Z, and I'm going to get wild with this stuff. But if Coleman is a plan on the outside, it kind of gets back to the issues early in the season that Joe highlighted so well. Like this, you really kind of get into a spot here. And we know the Bills faced more man coverage than any team in the league this year. With Josh Allen was your quarterback, they were willing to turn their back and run with receivers because they're like, what are we worried about? So they got to find a way to be better against man. They saw the most man. I think Sneaky Joe gave him the stat today. His EPA per dropback against man might have been 22nd. Like 22nd. He ate up zone because he's awesome. But against man, like it just wasn't there. Now, Kincaid can help that for sure, but we'll see. I am optimistic about their desire to search for something. He, on Adam Shine's show on Mad Dog Sports Radio, he said they called on Devontae Adams. He said they called on Rashid Shaheed and Jacoby Myers, and it was about cap space. That before they got Cooper, it was Adams. That they were after someone at the deadline. So, and those are not, minor moves. Those are names. Those are dogs. Devontae Adams is still awesome, and they were after him 2 years ago. So, I remain optimistic that the phase of our lives of everybody eats, and it's good to have nobody that's established. I'm optimistic that era of our lives is officially over.
I think it was good for when it was necessary. I think for 2024, this is what you have to do. Go, operate the offense at a high level and keep everything on schedule. And Josh did it and won an MVP and was the exact quarterback they needed to be that year for the team to maximize their potential. But I think we saw the consequence of that bleeding into another year. And then I've kind of leaned into this other talking point about how the burden of Josh Allen isn't that he, can erase deficiencies on your roster. The burden is to make sure that he has everything he needs to have the maximum output on football games and maximum impact on football games. And I think they got that twisted last year.
I've told you before, my feelings on everybody eats, nothing but a marketing ploy. It's just another way to say you're not good enough. I mean, that's honestly what it was.
The Chiefs, everybody got to eat. What happened?
Yeah. It's just another way to say that you don't got a couple of those dudes like Seattle got, right?
Boy, JSN's good, huh?
Well, look at Sam Darnold. Look at Sam Darnold. I mean, you had the same receivers playing all year long, right? Except for the Shaheed trade. And so there's continuity. Yeah, continuity. I mean, it goes a long way. And so what was said in the interview today, there was a lot to that. I thought that was really good as far as availability.
Stat for you on JSN. And this will be key for the Bills. Identifying a good receiver, not just taking one, identifying the right one. Because the Coleman miss, without the Coleman miss, maybe we aren't here. JSN last year led the NFL in yards receiving from the slot. JSN this year led the NFL in receiving in yards on the outside. Holy cow. If you knew he was as good as he is right now, that guy would have gone, he should have gone fifth. Never mind making it to where he did. He's just not the physical specimen that everyone falls in love with. He's just awesome at the job.
It's a little bit like Justin Jefferson, typecast, slot only.
They said slot only for Jefferson, Yeah.
Boy, give me the next one of those. Who's
Carnell Tate.
Is that it? I got to watch the tape. I'm still on these quarterbacks, man. So I'll get there.
Carnell Tate. I mean, I don't know. Got a bunch. Denzel Boston is going to be a first rounder. People are going to compare him to Keon because he's big and strong and ball skills and contested catch. And we're running into a lot of, I'm not going to want another blank. We're going to get hit with that a lot. Anyway. All right. The receiver room. It's going to be interesting. We know most of it will be on the defense, but receiver is going to be a big hot topic. And I also saw A.J. Brown maybe could be had for a second. Maybe the fallout in Philly goes a little further. Worry about him. All right, I'll say one thing, and then we'll get to a break, Jerry. You're going to grumble about A.J. Brown. That's fine. If you can get the mercurial, volatile receiver right before they explode, it can do well for you. Look at the Patriots with Diggs. Everyone said, oh, it's a honeymoon. It'll blow up in 2 years. Oh, yeah? Well, you get the first year. You get to have some fun.
I would like to not take everybody else's malcontents at some point. That would be nice.
Well, in order to do that, you got to draft him.
And we're going to draft him, evidently.
All right, we'll get a quick break in, get your thoughts in. We'll get a pick officially for Seahawks and Patriots, as we will reluctantly watch that but we will watch it. It's the Super Bowl on the way this weekend. All right, it's Bill Squad Show wrapping up. Get some of your comments in. Drop us a comment or a question. We'll roll through some here on Bill Squad. This episode of Bill Squad is brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run businesses and think, well, there has to be a better way. Well, Quo, spelled Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications, is there for you when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place. You're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number. Nothing gets missed. Everyone sees the full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and more personal. It works right from your phone or computer. You can even keep your existing number. And Quo's smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight next steps so details never slip through the cracks. Number one rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free. Plus, get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNFL. That's QUO.com/LockedOnNFL. Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. All right, we'll buzz through some of your comments here, get official picks for who's going to win the Super Bowl between the Patriots and the Seahawks. I'll give you my pick right off the bat because we'll start there. Gentlemen, my pick is Patriots in the most annoying fashion because I've seen 100 of these Super Bowls and they usually win them, and it's annoying. So I don't know how it'll happen. It'll be lucky. Nick Emenwari's ankle injury has him out. Sam Darnold falls on the way into the building. They will get lucky. I'm just preparing myself emotionally for that, even though it's a terrible idea.
I understand your angle. It's not if it's just about the reality of both football teams.
They should get hammered.
Right. Seattle. Have we studied this Seahawks defense against every other team except for the Rams? So, these are the points given up by Seattle in games not against the Rams recently. 6, 3, 10, 15, or excuse me, I'm on the wrong line. 6, 3, 10, 16, 9, 0. Those are the last 6 games against not the Rams.
Yeah.
They don't even give up 300 yards. Drake May's been horrible this postseason. Getting sacked on 15% of his dropbacks this postseason. Jared Wilson and Will Campbell are still the left guard and left tackle against the Seattle front. Short of Sam Darnold just turning into an absolute pumpkin, Seattle should win this game. So put me down for the Hawks. 23-16.
I would love to piggyback what Joe Marino had to say, but I will go one step further and say this. If Tom Brady can't pick the Patriots, I can't either. So I'm going with Seattle for the same things that Joe said. Will Campbell, while he can run block, his minimal arm length is causing issues in pass protection. Now that they got film out there on him, he's getting beat at a high rate. Drake May, I think, has completed 55% of his passes in the postseason, has 503 yards, 5 interceptions. He's been dismal. All intents and purposes, New England's going to have to try to find a way to get DeMondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson to run the ball against the Seattle front to do things. I'm going to find that hard. I find that very, very hard. Even if Nick Emenwari is not 100%, because he's the catalyst, obviously, behind this. There's a really good article today on ESPN about him kind of being the Kyle Hamilton, Mike McDonald's Kyle Hamilton at Seattle, and how he brings it all together, which he does. He's up for Defensive Rookie of the Year tonight in the NFL honor stuff. But no, I wouldn't put it past what Jeremy had to say, believe me, because that's how lucky the Patriots are. I mean, we might find out that there's carbon monoxide in the team bus on the way over there and everybody passed out. Who knows? But, I like Seattle. I really do.
Do we have thoughts on this Tom Brady thing? Some people are pretty passionate about it. He's the minority owner of the Raiders.
Gronk has the best viewpoint of it all.
What is
Gronk said the reason he won't pick the Patriots is because he's so egotistical. He's pissed that he's not the starting quarterback Sunday for the game.
I bet you
that's why he's not picking. That's why Gronk is 100% correct.
He wants the Patriots to never win another Super Bowl without him.
Bingo.
Boy, that sounds right.
Yes.
Bingo.
All right, good. Listen, that's the kind of thing I've been saying. But if Gronk says it, then it's legit. You're close to them. He doesn't want Drake May to win. That's nuts. That's nuts.
Probably true.
It probably is. Asante Samuel and Vince Wilfork also both called him out to say, like, are you crazy, man? Mike Vrabel is our teammate. He's about to win a Super Bowl as a coach, and you're not rooting for him?
Right.
The best defense of Brady saying he has no dog in the fight I saw was that Clint Kubiak is about to be his head coach. But in that case, the honest answer is I have 2 dogs in the fight. But he's not allowed to say that because Kubiak's not his coach yet. It's terrible. It's typical Brady. It's typical. Can you just be normal? Can you just say the team I played for 20 years is who I'm rooting for? No.
Could you imagine
weird.
Jim Kelly coming out? Bills are in the Super Bowl this week against Seattle. Don't have a dog in the fight.
Right. Ben Roethlisberger sees the Steelers there. He's like, makes no difference to me. Are you crazy? It's just wild.
Dude, it just proves he is a weird cat, man. That's a weird dude.
I got to ask Jerry about something before we get out of here. And whatever else you want to do, Jeremy, but I'm going to fit this in right now. Jerry, your reaction to Lindsey Vonn and what's going on with her and this torn ACL and her you see these workout videos, what she's doing. I thought we were impressed with what Tyrell Shavers did in the second half. What is going on here with Lindsey Vonn? Here we go. Jerry's getting comfortable in the seat.
I happen to be a Lindsey Vonn expert. I've been following Lindsey. I've been following.
I'm going to put it in your file underneath your name.
Yes, Lindsey Vonn expert. I've been following Lindsey forever. Okay, so if you know Lindsey, she lives for the comeback video. She lives for the Instagram comeback video. That is what she lives for. There's conspiracy theorists out there that think she might have got hurt on purpose just to do the comeback because the comeback is what gets her going. Honestly, seriously, I mean, that's kind of silly to think, but no, I commend her for it. Obviously, she's got a partial knee replacement on the right knee. Now she's skiing with no ACL in the other knee. She's at a point now where it can't be much worse. I got stability, put a brace on it. We'll see what happens. But no, if you know the Lindsey Vonn story, she will get a good 1.5 years worth of creative content out of this ACL injury because the comeback is always what's important for.
Hey, it's next level, Petty. She says, "I'm doing what Nancy Kerrigan couldn't do." Still gonna go.
Did she really say that?
No, I'm making it up. And through the lens of Tom Brady. Back to that Tom Brady story we're getting into.
That'd have been awesome.
Thinking, how can I make my legacy even bigger?
No, she's a bad lady, man. She is a bad lady.
Jeez.
I mean, she's already skiing with half a knee replacement.
I can't. She's unbelievable.
Yeah. She's bad. She's bad.
Couple quick comments back to Brady. Tristan writes in, doesn't everyone think he would say something different in private? He's trying to appear neutral. No, I don't. I don't think he would secretly say he's rooting for the Patriots. He's decided to say the weird thing. No one would think it was weird if he just said oh, of course, New England. They have a statue to me outside the building. No,
you don't want a statue next to him.
No, I think privately he would say he's rooting for the Seahawks. That's what he'd say privately.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah.
Jared writes in, I hope we sell out on defense in the draft. Linebackers, CJ Allen, Jake Golday, or Jacob Rodriguez, Kamari Ramsey for a safety. How about there's a Pitt linebacker? What's his name? He had a good Senior Bowl. I saw he like that linebacker drill they give the linebackers at the Senior Bowl. He did it better than anyone has ever done it. I forget his name. Anyway,
but Joe, understand this. We draft the linebacker. He's going to have to be somebody special because, you talked about Rodriguez. We got Rodriguez on the roster already. We got Buffalo Joe. I mean, we got guys like that. So if it's a linebacker draft pick, they're going to have to be special.
Be a dude,
special dude.
Where are we on draft prep, Joe?
I'm finishing quarterbacks. So would you like to talk about Carson Beck or
Tristan Chambliss is going to come out, right? Because
Trinidad Chambliss.
Sorry. Tristan was our last commenter. Trinidad Chambliss, because he got denied eligibility. I say good news for the Bills. That pushes everybody down a pick if he goes in the first round. I want quarterbacks in the first round here.
Boy, if Trinidad Chambliss is a first-round quarterback,
these teams always talk themselves into it.
Well, hey, like I said, Fernando Mendoza is the first-round quarterback, so anybody can be a first-round quarterback.
You're crazy on that. We were going to argue about this for years, and that'd be fine. Chambliss, I don't know, man. You see him try to execute quick game, the most free access, open-air system you'll ever run with Lane Kiffin. He's late on throws or inaccurate. I don't know, man. I don't see an NFL quarterback in Trinidad Chambliss.
Yeah, what tells you
Ty Simpson going first round?
I don't think he's got first round tools. I can see him being a Shanahan, McVay type quarterback. He fits that like run the system type guy. And he does a lot pre-snap. He's likable. I'm not hitching my wagon to him, but I could see somebody taking that risk.
No, I think out of all the guys, as far as that goes, that assessment, I would probably like him more than any of them. And that's a stretch.
That linebacker is Kyle Lewis. Thanks, Daryl, for that. Kyle Lewis from Pitt. How about this one? Any interest in DJ Moore, under the radar guy who may move this offseason?
Yeah.
Do you think DJ Moore fits our offensive scheme, Joe?
He's definitely an X, right? Like he'd play that role for them.
Yeah,
I don't know that he's a great man beater right now at this point. Like that
no,
I don't know.
But if you tell me that you're not going to go like super big fish hunting, I think DJ Moore is like a more modest. Okay, yeah, we couldn't do these other things. We don't want to pay $1 million for Alec Pierce. Let's go DJ Moore, a high pick, and Brandon Cooks back. Like, okay, all right, I can live with it.
DJ Moore and a high pick, you said.
Well, it's like you got a lot of people talking about, Marvin Harrison Jr. My problem with that is he seems to have had pressure being that high of a draft pick and performing, and now all of a sudden you get traded and it's even more pressure.
I think it is.
I wonder a little bit.
I loved Marvin, man, coming out.
I do too. I didn't
my
say
number one player in the draft.
I didn't say he wasn't, but he's had some of that, drops and.
Wouldn't the appeal though that you get him on a discount? Like you wouldn't trade.
Oh, I would take him in a heartbeat. Don't get me wrong, because we got his coach on the roster. We got his coach.
He knows
staff.
him. Yeah.
He knows him. Yeah. So I don't think I think it'd be as clean as clean can be. I'm just saying, I wonder how that would be. You know what? Why are we discussing this? We're like line guys. We should ask our resident wide receiver expert on the panel what he thinks about this. Jeremy?
Marvin Harrison Jr., I don't mind the idea. I like that it's cheap. I mean, you have to pay for the asset. Instead of that, they should trade up for Carnell Tate. Everything is going to come down to that's what they should do. They should trade up for Carnell Tate.
Man, I got to watch Carnell Tate.
Well, I got to. No,
it will cost you. It will cost you everything. It will cost you everything. But that's what they should do.
Yep. Yeah, the compensation chart is the smoke's coming out of the calculator.
You're telling me would I give up 2 firsts and a third? Like, yep. Yes, I would.
Boy, you really feeling it with Mr. Tate.
Well, he's that good. I mean,
draft
I think he's that
Ohio
good.
State receivers and go to bed at night. There's your plan at wide receiver.
Because the other thing is, the other guys had a little bit of question marks. Like Mikhail Lemon, I like, but does he have size? Does he have this? Concepcion, he's going to burn past everybody, but he's like old boy in that movie Necessary Roughness. He's going to catch one out every 6 passes. Everybody's got question marks.
TJ Graham type.
Yeah, that dude doesn't. Tate doesn't have question marks.
Yeah.
Well, I got bad news for everybody. The Bills will not be getting Maxx Crosby, Carnell Tate, Justin Jefferson, and DJ Moore. Right. So we're going to have to come to terms with what the right.
Why do you say that?
It's a long offseason. We'll get there.
Yeah, I know. What blanket Joe? Yeah.
All right, we should go. We could go on forever. We'll be back Monday. All right, Monday after the Seahawks do the thing and the offseason officially begins. There's franchise tagging windows, the combine, lots of course to get to. So be sure to like and subscribe. Catch us wherever you catch your podcast. The Locked On Bills channel. Joe stuff is there. He's running through a lot of offseason, really deep dives on so much stuff. Great content as always. And gentlemen, enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll talk next week. Go Bills and go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Go Bills.
Go Hawks. Much love. Go Bills.